Kakadosh Boker Or Masechet Zevachim Daf Yomi Daf Tzadik Aleph Amud Aleph 91A1 says the Gemara. We were talking about the question to do with that if you have Tadid and Mekudash, which one comes first? Remember, Tadid v'sheno Tadid, Tadid Kodem. Mekudash v'sheno Mekudash, Mekudash Kodem. Meaning, if you have something which is constant, right, fixed, and something which is not, the one that's fixed always comes first. If you have something which is holy and something which is not holy, the one which is holy always comes first. What about if you have something constant and holy? Meaning two different things. So which one comes first? So Tashema, Tmidin Kodim Korban Tamid is every single morning. We have Korban Tamid. The Tamid is one in the morning, one in the nighttime. So therefore the Tamids always come before the Musaf. Korban Musaf is only Shabbat. So he says, 1 second. What is holy? Holy is the Musaf. The Musaf is Kadosh. You only have it on Shabbat, Yom Tov, Rosh Chodesh. So says the Gemara, Atu Shabbat lemusafin ahanae letzmidin lo ahane. He says what? Kedushat Shabbat is only on the Musaf, on the Mosifin, and it's not going to be on the Tamid? Meaning, if you're going to tell me it's because of the Shabbat, just like the Shabbat is going to be on the Korban of the what? Of the Musaf, it's also going to be on the Korban Tamid. Ataiti? Ken? So says the Gemara, Tashema, Musfeh Shabbat kolim Musfeh Rosh Chodesh. Okay, you have Korban Musaf of Shabbat before the Musaf of Rosh Chodesh. So says the Gemara, 1 second. Atu Rosh Chodesh l'Musafin didei ahani Musaf Shabbat lo ahani. The one of Rosh Chodesh for the Musaf of itself, it helps, and it doesn't help for the what of the Musaf of Shabbat. At the end of the day, Kiddushat Rosh Chodesh is also going to be on everything, right? Not only just on the one of Rosh Chodesh. So he says, fine. So Tashema Musfeh Rosh Chodesh kodmin Musfeh Rosh Hashanah. The one of Rosh Chodesh comes before Rosh Hashanah. Now, Afal Gav the Rosh Hashanah Katsha. Which one is more holy? Rosh Hashanah. Meaning like this. Rosh Chodesh. What's more constant? Rosh Chodesh or Rosh Hashanah? Rosh Chodesh. Why? It's every month. Rosh Hashanah is once a year. But what's more holy? Rosh Hashanah or Rosh Chodesh? Rosh Hashanah. So he says this is a proof from the fact that you do the Musaf of Rosh Chodesh before Musaf of Rosh Hashanah, that when you have a Tadir, and you have a Mekudash, you do the Tadir Kodem. Capish? Very good. So says the Gemara, Atu Rosh Hashanah Musafeh Didei Ahanin Musafeh Rosh Chodesh Lo'ani. He says 1 second, but the one of Rosh Hashanah is also going to help for itself also. For the one of Rosh Chodesh also. So therefore they're both Kadosh then. So what does that mean? Right? So Tashema, we're going to try to bring another proof then. Davar Acher, another explanation. Birkat Yain Tedira, U Birkat Yom Ene Tedira. Meaning like this. Why is it that we do Birkat Yain before Birkat Hayom? For example, what's Birkat Yain? Borei Pri Gefen. What's Birkat Hayom? Mekadesh Shabbat, Mekadesh Yisrael Zemanim, right? The Kiddush, right? Whenever we do Kiddush, what's the first thing that you do? You always do Borei Pri Gefen verse. So why is Birkat Yain Tedira? Because it's always Tadir, right? U Birkat Hayom ena Tedira. Birkat Hayom is not Tadir. Tadir v'sheno Tadir, Tadir Kodem. So when you have a Tadir v'sheno Tadir, the Tadir always comes first. Af al gav de Birkat Hayom, Kadisha. Even though he comes and he says Birkat Hayom is going to be more Kadosh. Meaning, the Mekadesh Shabbat, or Mekadesh Yisrael Zemanim, or Mekadesh Yisrael V'Yom Zikaron, or all whenever it's that is always much more holy. But that's holier than the Beracha Borei Pri Gefen. But since the Borei Pri Gefen is Tadir, it's constant. You always say Borei Pri Gefen. Every Shabbat, every day you drink one, you say Borei Pri Gefen. So therefore, that's what you're going to make it. So says the Gemara, Atu Shabbat librikat Hayom ahani librikat Yain lo ahani. Says I don't understand. Let's say it's Shabbat right now. So you're going to say Borei Pri Gefen, and then you say Mekadesh Shabbat. The Kiddush of the Shabbat is only going to be on the Mekadesh Shabbat and not on the Borei Pri Gefen. It's Shabbat. Once it's Shabbat, it's on everything. So Tashema, we're going to try to bring another proof then. Tamar Rabbi Yochanan says halacha. What's halacha? Mitpalel adam shemincha ve'achar kach mitpalel shel musaf. Let's say what happens is you come to the Bet Knesset. You said shachrit, and then what happened was you didn't say musaf. Now remember musaf, even though there's a mitzvah lechatchila to say it until the 7th hour, but technically speaking, you could say it all day. Yeah, you could say it all day. So what happens is, all of a sudden comes afternoon, you come to the Bet Knesset, and now you have a choice. What do you say first? Musaf or mincha? That's the question. So Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says, the halacha is that when you have two tefillot in front of you, the musaf and the mincha, right, what are you supposed to do? Mitpalel adam shel mincha. First do mincha. And then afterwards, you're going to come and you're going to be mitpalel of musaf. So first you do mincha, and then you do musaf. So says the Gemara, Atu Shabbat letfilat musafina hani letfilat mincha lo hani. He says, one second. If I just wanted to tell you that you do mincha before, what's holier? Musaf. What's tadir? Mincha. Mincha is done every single day. Musaf is only on Shabbat, Yom Tov, Rosh Chodesh. So what's more tadir? Right? The mincha. But what's holier? The musaf. So he says what? But you're going to tell me now that the Shabbat, right, is going to come and is going to help. Right? Letfilin musafin. But for tfilat mincha, it's not going to help. Tota Shema, he comes and he says, right? Shlamim, right? He comes and he says like this: Shlamim shel emesh v'chatat v'asham shel yom. We said that what happens if right now you're going to have a shlamim of emesh, right? The shlamim of yesterday, v'chatat v'asham, right? Shel yom, and you have the chatat and asham of today. So shlamim shel emesh kodmin. So which one do you eat first? Remember that a shlamim you're able to eat it shnei yamim v'layla echad. So since we're talking about Shnei Yamim v'Layla Echad, 2 days and 1 night, so therefore the Shlamim, you have longer time to eat it. Chatat Vasham is only Liyom Balayla at Chatzot, right? You don't have the entire time. So therefore the question is like this. You've got a Shlamim and you've got an Chatat and Hasham. So what comes first for eating? So he says the Shlamim comes first for eating, right? He says Ha'idi v'Idi Diyom. Both of them are the same day. Chatav ve'asham kadme. So he says the chatav ve'asham is going to come first. Fa'avagav the shlamim tadiri. Even though the shlamim is tadir. So he comes and he says like this: the chatat and hasham are going to be before the shlamim because they're more holy. So now 1 second. So this should be a proof that the shlamim shel emes chatav ve'asham shel yom, the shlamim come first. But if it's going to be of the same day, you do the chatat ve'asham. Now what's more common? The shlamim. So therefore, when you have tadir and mekudash, which one's coming first? Here it's mashma that the mekudash is going to come before the tadir. So Amar Rava comes and he says, Matsui kamarta. Are you talking about now which one's more common? He says tadir kami baelan. We're talking about tadir. The matsui lo kami baelan. We never spoke about matsui. Matsui means that it's common. Common does not mean tadir. They're two different things. Tadir means more constant. So more constant zelo todavar as more common, right? Because the chatat and nasham could also be tadir. Just like the shamim could be tadir. They're all tadir. But really, be'emet, it's more common. So common is not the same thing as constant. So Amar le Ravuna bar Yehuda le Rava. Says Ravuna bar Yehuda to Rava. Atu matsui lo tadir. He says, well, matsui is not tadir. Otzi et Pesach sheno tadir. Right? Velo otzi et milah shi tadira. I'm going to write, we learned to the Braita. We're talking about now, right, certain mitzvot, right, of mitzvot aseh, which they bring a chatat, right? So we're talking about always a Pesach and milah. Remember that there's only, in order to bring a chatat, a sin offering, it always has to be a negative commandment, which shigato is chatat, v'zedon, it's going to be chayav, karet, or anything else. Here, right, the only positive commandments that you have which fit this category is Korban Pesach and the Brit Milah. Because other than that, there's no positive commandment that you will ever get karet for, right, if you do not do it. It's only the Korban Pesach and the Milah. So he comes and he says, I'm going to come and take out the Korban Pesach, which is not going to be Tadir, right? And he says, Velo tzita Milah, I'm not going to take the Milah, which is going to be Tadir and more Chamur. So we learn from here that the fact that the Milah is considered Tadir, even though it's not Tadir Bizman Kavua, it's just more common. Meaning, what's more common, the Brit Milah or the Korban Pesach? Obviously, the Brit Milah, but it's not that it's Tadir. It's not to do Tadir. It has to do, it's common. So he says, so what does it mean Tadira then? Tadira b'mitzvot. It's Tadir b'mitzvot because since it's Tadir b'mitzvot, because there's 13 Britot that HaKadosh Baruch Hu came and he fixed on the Brit Milah, so therefore that's why it's Tadir b'mitzvot, not the Tadir that it's really Tadir. It's really Matsui. If you want, you can answer Milah legabe Pesach ki Tadir tami. That really be'emet the Brit Milah with correlation, with corresponding to the Korban Pesach, it is considered Tadir. You're right, it's a wrong usage of language. It's really be'emet Matsui velo Tadir. אבל לא משנה, אבל ביחס. זאת אומרת, ביחס, קורבן פסח, זה תדיר. איבא אלוהו. So we're going to ask now another question. We said תדיר ושאינו תדיר, right? You always do which one first? The תדיר. What happens right now, וקדים ושחל לשאינו תדיר? What happens if I did the shchita to the שאינו תדיר? Yeah? So I've got one more time. תדיר ושאינו תדיר, תדיר קודם. I made a mistake, right? The Kohen was not paying attention. Right? He came and he did the shchita to what? He did the shchita to the not tadir. Right? Here, lav davka, it's the Kohen because anybody could do the shchita. So it's lav davka the kohen. It could be anybody. The guy wasn't paying attention. He came and he did the shchita to the not tadir. So what's halacha? Mi amnin andu say Kevin the shachte. Once you did the shchita makrivle, so bring that one first. Or dilmar maybe yahiv laacher de memares bedamo. Give it to somebody else. That somebody else is going to come and start mixing the blood. Why do you have to mix the blood? So it doesn't congeal. Yeah, that's what the Kohen Gadol does on Kippur, right? He gives it to somebody else. The other person's coming and mixing the blood. But as long as you mix the blood, the liquid, it does not congeal. If not, it becomes congealed. So he says, right? So Dima maybe Yahiv la'acher de memares bedamo, ad makriv le tadir. Then you come and you bring the tadir. Hadar makriv le sheno tadir. And then you come and you're going to bring the sheno tadir. It's a very simple question. Yeah? So Amar Ravuna Misura, says Ravuna Misura, Tashema, we're going to try to bring a proof. Shlamim shel emesh, when you have a shlamim of yesterday, v'chata v'asham shel hayom and chatat and of today, shel emesh kodem, so the one of the yesterday comes first to the one of today. So right, so therefore, it's mashma over here, right, that you have the zrikat adam and everything that you're doing, right, and what are you doing first? You're doing the one of yesterday first. Had yom dumya demesh, but if it's going to be the shlamim of today, right? So what are you going to do now? The echidami. What's the case? The kadim shachte l'shlamim, right? The first you went and you did the shlamim first. You did the shchita of the shlamim first, and then what do we say? Chatav v'asham kodem. So that means what do you mean to do? We wanted to bring a proof from this brighter that what you're supposed to do is if you made a mistake and you did the shchita to the wrong animal, what you do is you give the blood to somebody else. He comes, he continues mixing it. Go do the korban, which was tadir, and then you come back to this one. That's a proof. So says the Gemara, no. Dilma shlamim de emesh v'chatat v'asham diyom hechi mashkachla. How do you have a case of shlamim of yesterday and the chatat and asham, right, of today? He says the shachtinu l'travayhu. You did the shchita to both of them at the same time. Aval lo shachtinu l'travayhu. But if you didn't do the shchita to both of them, tibay lecha. So then again, you're going to have the question: are you going to be mizalzel in the shlamim to come and have somebody else just stir the blood until, or you bring it right away? Right? Because if you did the shchita at the same time, so then that's fine. Remember, you could always do the shchita at the same time. You had a lot of rings, and in all the rings, you were able to do shchita. So therefore, you were able to have multiple shchitas done at the same time. So Tashema says the Gemara, Tavar Acher, another explanation, Birkat Yain Tedira or Birkat Yom and Tedira. You remember we brought down to do the Birkat Yain and Birkat Yom. Birkat Yain is Borei Peri Hagefen. Birkat Yom will be Mekadesh Shabbat or Mekadesh Yisav Zemanim or all the other things. So he says, when it says Birkat Yain Tedira and Birkat Yom is not Tedira, Tadir Sheno Tadir, Tadir Kodem, which means it's not only just because of the Kiddusha. When we brought this down, we were talking about Kadosh. So we said Birkat Gefen and Birkat Mekadesh Shabbat or Mekadesh Yisav Zemanim, Mekadesh Shabbat, that's more Kadosh. But it's not midin kadosh also. It's because of tadir. So therefore tadir v'sheno tadir, tadir kodem. Meaning, why do I say borei pri gefen before, right, mekadesh Shabbat? Or why do I say borei pri gefen before mekadesh yisav zemanim? Because it's tadir v'sheno tadir. Not because of mikudash, it's because of tadir. So says the Gemara, Chanami, so to hear, Kevan de Atyan, Keman de Shachti, Tarvayu Dami. He says, once I bring them both to the Bet HaMikdash at the same time, right? So it's Ki'ilu that they were both done Shechita at the same time. And therefore, Tadir Kodem. I'm not going to go because of the laws of Mikudash, because again, the Hashem and the Chatat are more Mikudash than the Shlamim, but rather because of the Tadir. So Tashema, we're going to try to bring a proof. Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says, "What's halacha? Mitpalel adam shel mincha ve'achar kach shel musafin." You remember we said if a person did not pray musaf yet, and it comes the time of mincha, and now he's got the two choices. Which one do I pray first? Do I pray mincha or do I pray musaf? So he says, "Mitpalel shel mincha." Right? According to Rabbi Yochanan, he says that the halacha is you first pray mincha, and then afterwards you're going to pray what? The musaf. So he comes over here and he says, so which one are we going to do first? The tadir. Right? Even though the other one is more mikudash. Then we answered over there that it wasn't more mikudash because the kadosh is also on the mincha as well. So says the Gemara, Chenami, so to hear, Kevan de Mate Zman Tefillah Mincha, since it becomes the time of the Tefillah Mincha, Keman de Shchite Tervayu Dami. So it's like Ki'ilu that you did Shechita to both of them. So since you did the Shechita to both of them, it's Ki'ilu that both of them are there. So therefore, even the one which is the Pachot Tadir and Yoter Tadir, they're both right in front of you right now. So Amal Ravacha Bered Ravashi Ravina. Tashema, we're going to try to bring another proof now. Shechato Kodum Chatzot. What happens if you did the Shechita of the Korban Pesach before Chatzot? It's pasul. Why? Because it says Ben Arbaim. It says V'shachatu Oto Kol Kaladat. It says Ben Arbaim. Ben Arbaim means in the afternoon, right? So he says Kodum Tamid If it's going to be before the tamid sheben arbaim, it's going to be kasher. That means even though lechatchila first you have to do the tamid, right? One more time. It has to be done in the afternoon, and that's why in the afternoon of the Erev Pesach, it's a subim lacha. It has to be done in the afternoon, but it has to be done after Tamid Shel Ben Arbaim, because Tadir v'Shelo Tadir Kodem. So you first do Tamid Shel Ben Arbaim, and then you bring the Korban Pesach. Now he says, what happens if I did it before the Korban Tamid? So he says, if Kodem Tamid, it's going to be kasher. So now what are you going to do? You're going to come and you're going to be mixing the blood of the Korban Pesach until you're going to sprinkle the blood of the tamid. So you see from here that that's what you're doing. You're going to give it to somebody else. He mixes the blood in order that it shouldn't congeal, and then you continue. So answers the Gemara, what are we dealing with again? You first did the korban tamid. Meaning, since you came and you did the korban tamid first, right, and then you come and now you have a question which one to sprinkle the blood first. So therefore, obviously, what you have to do is you have to do the dama tamid before anything else. So Amar le Rav Acha Saba, Ravashi says Rav Acha Saba to Ravashi matniti nami daiki. You could even deduce it from a Mishnah. Tektani ad sheizrok et adam, velo tektani velo ktani. We didn't learn ad sheishchot veizrok adam. Meaning, it's only until you do be zorek the dam, but if not, it doesn't say until you're shochet and zorek et adam. Shema Mina comes to teach you that if right now you did shechita to the not tadir, that one you finish off. But if you did shechita to both of them, right, now you have to do the tadir first, and you have to wait, and you give the other guy the blood in order to do it. So in all of them, the kohanim could come and change the eatings. You remember we said that the kohanim, or the majority of the korbanot, they could come and they could change the way that they want to eat the different korbanot. My time, what's reasoning? Amakra, the pasuk says lemoshcha. What is lemoshcha? Ligdula, kederach shemalachim ochlin. Just like the malachim are going to come and they're going to eat, and therefore they're allowed to eat it in any form or any way, the way that they like it. Okay, says a Mishnah. Amar Rabbi Shimon, says Rabbi Shimon, Im ra'ita shemen shehu mitchalek. We're on the Mishnah on the bottom of 91a. Tzadik Aleph Amud Aleph on the bottom of the Mishnah. Says Rabbi Shimon, Im ra'ita shemen shehu mitchalek ba'azara. If you see that there's going to be oil which is going to be given to the Kohanim to eat, and tzarich lishol mahu, you don't have to ask what is this oil. Ela, but rather, mutar rekike minchot Israel. But rather what it is that this shemen is the leftovers after the rikike minchat ma'afet tanur, right, that the Yisrael bring. The log shemen shel metzora, right, or the log of the shemen of the metzora, which is extra. Im ra'ita shemen shu nitan gabe ha'yishim. Now, if you come and you see that there's going to be leftovers of oil on top of the fire, and tzarich lishol ma'u, you don't have to ask what it is. Why? It's mutar rikike mincha kohanim. Then it's from the kohen. But the mincha kohanim, it goes completely on the mizbeach. Nobody eats from that oil. Or minchat kol mashiach, or the mincha kol mashiach, she'en mitnadin shemen, because they never give shemen by itself. Rabbi Tarfon says, mitnadvin shemen. They can come and they're allowed to give oil, right, by itself, and therefore it could be that it's oil by itself, has nothing to do with any of the leftovers of korbanot. Tzadik Aleph Amud Bet, right, 91b. Says the Gemara, okay, Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says, the Divret Rabbi Tarfon, according to the words of Rabbi Tarfon, Hamitnadev Shemen, when someone is going to come and going to be Mitnadev Shemen, Komso, he's going to take a kometz of the Shemen, Ushiran Nechalin, and then the leftovers are going to be eaten by the Kohanim. My time, what's the reasoning? Amar Kra, the pasuk says, Korban Mincha. Was when it says, V'nefesh ki takriv Korban Mincha, melamed shemitnadvin Shemen, v'chi Mincha, right? And he says, now when we're talking about now the mincha, ma mincha komtza u'sheira nechalin, av shemen komtzo u'sheirav nechalin. Just like the mincha, the kohen is going to do the kmitza and everything else is going to be eaten to the kohanim, so too the shemen, right? It's going to be done the kmitza and, right, it's going to be eaten to the kohanim. Amar Rabbi Zera says Rabbi Zera, afanana mitanina. We also learned it in a Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Amar Rabbi Shimon, says Rabbi Shimon, im ra'ita shemen shemitchalek ba'azara, right? If you see that there's going to be shemen that's going to be divided in the azara, you don't have to ask what it is, right? Why? Because you know it's either going to be the leftovers of the minchot Yisrael or the log of shemen shel mitzora. She'em mitnadvin shemen miklal deman damar. So it's mashma shemitnadvin, that if you're going to go like the Shitav Rabbi Tarfon, which was a seif of the Mishnah, which was mitnadvin, mitchalek, it is going to be given to the Kohanim. And therefore, if you see it, so now you have a doubt what it is, because maybe it's shemen by itself. Okay? So Amalei Abaye comes and he says, Ema Seifa, let's see the Seifa. Im ra'ita shemen shenitan gabe hashim. If you come and you see shemen which is going to be on the mizbeach, Also, you don't have to ask about it. Yet tatzrich lishol mahu. You don't have to ask. Ela motar lekike minchat kohanim. It's because of the mincha of the kohanim that it gets completely burnt on the mizbeach. Uminchat kohanim Mashiach or the minchat kohanim Mashiach shemitarin shemen, but they don't give it to they'll give the oil by itself. Miklal deman damar mitchayev. Kulan leishim. It's much everything goes to leishim, which means that therefore everything goes to the mizbeach. Which means like this: we have like a question. What's going on according to Shitat Rabbi Tarfon? You're allowed to come and give oil by itself. But where's it supposed to be? Is it supposed to be eaten by the Kohanim? Or is it supposed to be that it's put on the Mizbeach and it's completely burnt? We had a stira from the Reisha and from the Seifa. Yeah, that's what we have. We have a stira from the Reisha and the Seifa. So, Rabbi Zera, right? So he says like this, Abaye kasha Reisha. So Abaye, he had a question from the Reisha of the Mishnah. And Rabbi Zera, he had a question from the Seifa of the Mishnah. So Bisham al Zera, I understand the Zera that he had the question of the Reisha, right? We're talking about Shiraim, and the Seifa is talking about the comets. But according to Abaye, you have a question then. So Tana Reisha to Seifa, he says, but rather the Tana the Reisha, he taught it only because of the Seifa, right? What does that mean? He comes and he says this. Bisham Seifa Tani Mishum Reisha. I understand that the Seifa you taught it because of the Reisha. La Reisha Mishum Seifa Mitani, but you never do the opposite. Meaning like this. Sometimes I teach you something in the beginning part of the Mishnah, in the former part of the Mishnah, and because I already taught it in the beginning, so I'm going to teach it in the end. But I don't teach you something in the end, and then I'm going to teach you something in the beginning because of it. What comes first? The beginning. So first, I'm going to come and I'm going to tell you something. And you say, by the way, we already spoke about that. It's not really kashur, but I'm going to bring it down. Lama lamata zekvar bareisha. So he says, yes, they said in Marava, they said in Eretz Yisrael, Tana Reisha Mishum Seifa. They do that. Sometimes they'll come and they'll teach a Reisha because of the Seifa. Okay, so Tashema, we're going to try to bring a proof now. Yain. When we're talking about now, Yain of Nidava. Okay, we're talking about the Yain that you brought as a Korban Nidava. Kedivrei Rabbi Akiva, like the words of Rabbi Akiva, la Sefalim. It was going to be like all the other types of the Nesachim. Okay, and he says Shemen is like Rabbi Tarfon, Laishim, which goes to the Mizbeach. My love, are we not talking about now, Midiyayin Kulola Sefalim, that if the wine is going to go completely to the Sefalim, okay, because basically they had these Sefalim that they used to come and put the Niske Yain in mine, and in every single Sefer they had the hole, right? And therefore used to go down to the Shitim. You remember we saw the picture. You remember on the Mizbeach, you remember we had the two different like holes, they look like dots. And those dots used to go down. So he says, my lover, we're not talking about the yain, everything goes to the sefalim, to the shem, and everything goes to the ishim. So he says, no, midi idia. He says, you can't compare both cases. Hakirita, which means each one accordingly. The yain and the shemen, when they're going to be together, right, it's not that they're equal. The yain goes everything to the sefalim, and the oil goes everything to the mizbeach. So says the Gemara, Ketanai, we have a machloket tanaim. Shemen, when you have shemen, lo yivchot milog, you never have less than a log of shemen. Remember that when we have a revi'it nowadays, it's revi'it of a log. So for when we speak about whether it's 86 cc or 150 cc, that's a revi'it of a log. So whatever you do, you have to times it by 4, and that's how you get a full log. Okay, a log shemen. So he says, right, lo yivchot milog. Rabbi says, no, 3 login, right, mishlosha login. What is a machloka between them? Amrua kameder Rabbanan kameder Rav Papa. They said in front of Rav Papa, don mina umina, don mina v'uki batra yikubena. The machloka between them is don mina umina or don mina v'uki batra. Right? What does that mean? You remember we said that sometimes I come and I compare one case to another, and once I compare one case to another, I completely apply all the halachot to it. Other times I come and I compare one to another. But then I said, okay, it's got the same halachot, but I put it back to its original form to learn the halacha from there. That's domina ve'oki biatra. I'm going to put it back to its place. So Rabbanan Savre, the rabbis teach don mina umina, which means we're going to learn the ikar of the halacha that you give oil, right, from the korban mincha. Just like the mincha, you're going to give it, and it's going to be a nidava. So to oil, you could do a nidava. Umina. But I'm going to learn it again to do the halachot of the mincha. Meaning, I just compared the shemen to the mincha. Just like the korban mincha could be a nedava, so to shemen could be a nedava. But I'm going to be don mina umina, but I'm also going to learn the next halacha from it as well. Ma mincha log shemen, so to here it's going to be log shemen. Fine. Ma mincha komtza v'shiyurei ne'achalim. Just like the mincha, the kohen is going to be kometz, and the shiurim is going to be nechalim. Av shemen komtzo v'shiyurei ne'achalim. Ve'idach, another one, he says it's like the mincha, just like the mincha is mitanadvin. So to the shemen is going to be matvin. Ve'uki batra, but I put it back to its original place. What does that mean? Like the nesachim. Just like the nesachim are going to be shlosh lugin, so to the shemen should be shlosh lugin. And just like the nesachim, everything goes to the sefalim, so to the shemen, everything goes to the ishim. So therefore, that's a machloket. Do we say don mina umina, meaning I'm already learning it from the mincha, so I'm going to also mina, I'm going to learn the second halacha also from the mincha to do with not the value, the quantity of the oil. Or don mina, I'm learning the shemen from the mincha, but the uki batra, I'm going to place it back to its original status quo, which is going to be shemen with yain, that it's always going to be shlosha lugin, and then obviously the yain goes to the sefalim, and the shemen goes to the yishim. Okay, that's a machloket don mina umina, or don mina v'uki batra. So Amar Rav Papa le'Abaye, says Rav Papa to Abaye, Imi mincha maiti la Rebbe. If you're going to come and you're going to bring it from Rebbe from the korban mincha, techule alma, according to everybody domina umina. But Rebbe comes and he says me'ezrach kamala. I thought that he learned it from the Parashat Nesachim where it says that it's from the Ezrach, which means from there we see that it's not going to be less than 3 logim. So Amale Ravuna B'Red Rav Natan Rav Papa. Says Ravuna B'Red Rav Natan Rav Papa, Mi Matzi Tamar Tachi, can you actually say such a thing? V'atanya, we learned in a Braita, Kurban Mincha, Melamed Shemitnadevin Shemen. When it says Kurban Mincha, you're allowed to be Mitnadev Shemen, right? Which was Domina, right? That we brought down at the beginning. V'kama Shlosha Lugin, Auman Shama. How do you know it's Shlosha Lugin? Says Rebbe. V'kama Itilan, he's learning it from the Kurban Mincha, so it's Domina Mina. So Amalei, he says, Tanya, you're right. If it's written with furash in the Braita like that, so ani chozer bi. I retract, and you're right. Domina umina. We're learning that it's going to be right 3 login. So Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says, nadev yain mevi zalfo al gabe ishim. When you bring wine, what you have to do is you take the wine and to sprinkle it on top of the mizbeach. Okay, that means you don't pour the entire wine on the mizbeach. You sprinkle it on the mizbeach, and then you come and you pour it down the hole on the bottom of the mizbeach. My tama, what's the reasoning? Amar Kra, the pasuk says, "V'yain takriv lanesech chatzi yain." Right? What does that mean? In this pasuk, we learn that the wine is going to be brought laishim, to the fire. And therefore, you see that the wine is coming by itself and it's going to be brought to the fire. So says the Gemara, I don't understand you. When you have a fire and you put wine, you're turning it off. Right? You're putting out the fire. So he says, no, kibui b'miktzad lo shmi kibui. You're only turning it off a little bit. Turning off a little bit, it's not like you're completely putting enough wine that you're completely extinguishing the fire. So because of that, he says, kibui b'miktzad is not considered kibui. So says, is it so? Hamorid gachelet malgabe mizbeach v'chiba chayav. If you right now come and you take off a gachelet from the mizbeach, you have coals on top of the mizbeach. You come and you take off one of the gachelets, right? And now you turn it off, you're going to be chayav malkut. Why? You are over on lo tichbeh, meaning that you see from here that even if you turned off a little bit of the fire of the mizbeach, you are going to be chayav. So says the Gemara, teleka elahain. He says, no, you only had one gachelet up there. That's why you're going to be chayav. If you want, you could say also kibui de mitzvah shane. Right, that here you're being mechabel etzorich mitzvah. That's why there's no isur. Meaning there, you just come and you took off coals. What are you coming and turning off part of the fire on the mizbeach? So it's an avera. But here you're doing a mitzvah. You're pouring a little bit of the wine on top of the thing. So therefore you're doing a mitzvah. So there's no problem whatsoever. So Tashema, we're going to try to bring now a proof. Right, the Tana B'Eliezer ben Yaakov, the Torah B'Eliezer ben Yaakov, klape shenatna Torah litrom. Right, from the fact that it's written that the Torah was gave the permission to come and to be torem the trumat deshen and everything. Yachol, I would have thought to say yechabe vitram. You have to first turn it off and then you have to be torem the deshen. Right, Amarta, you said lo yechabe. You're not allowed to turn it off. Meaning when you take off the trumat deshen from the mizbeach, you're not allowed to turn off the fire. You just take from the ashes and you take it off, but you're not supposed to turn it off. So he says shanehatam. He says over there, efshar diati vinata. He says you could wait until the fire turns off. So therefore, that's why you're not supposed to turn it off. So Tashema, right? He's going to try to bring proof. Yain kidvei Rabbi Akiva lesefalim, shemen kidvei Rabbi Tofon le'alishim. The old Tanya we also learned yain nesech lesefalim oena le'alishim. Amarta lo yechabei. You're not supposed to come and turn it off. So from here it's mashma you're not supposed to put the wine on the mizbeach. But if you put the wine on the mizbeach, you're turning it off. So answers the Gemara lakashi. That's not a question. Ha Rabbi Yehuda veha. Right, Rabbi Shimon. If you remember, there's a whole machloket. Davar she'enu mitkaven is that mutar or asur. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, davar shelo mitkaven is still chayav. So since it's going to be chayav, so therefore that's why you're not allowed to put it on the mizbeach at all. But according to Shitat Rabbi Shimon, that's how we pass it on Shabbat. Davar shelo mitkaven is mutar. Since davar shelo mitkaven is mutar, so you're allowed to pour a little bit on top of the mizbeach, and even though it's going to ultimately it could turn off a little bit part of the fire, it doesn't matter. That's not your kavanah to turn off the fire. So therefore, davar shelo mitkaven is going to be mutar. So he says, "Lemeimra de Shmuel Rabbi Shimon Svirler." You're going to tell me now that Shmuel holds like Rabbi Shimon? He says, "V'amar Shmuel." Shmuel says, "Mechabin." Right, gachelet shel matechet. You turn off a gachelet of matechet. B'shut rabim. B'shishli izoko barabim. In order, that means, imagine right now you're going on Shabbat, and you find that there's going to be a piece of hot coals in the middle of the Rishut Rabim. So you're allowed to turn it off in order that people are not going to get damaged. Because imagine people walk by it, they go, they don't even realize what's going on. Yeah, tzaddik bet modalef on the top. Aval, no, it's not a fubehu. You're allowed to be mechabeota. So he says, aval lo gachelet shel etz, but you're not allowed to turn off a gachelet of etz. Meaning you're only allowed to take off a gachelet of matechet, of metal, but not of etz. So v'isa kadai, now if you're going to tell me now, Rabbi Shimon that you hold it like Rabbi Shimon, so afilu gachelet shel etz nami. What's the difference between etz and matechet? At the end of the day, it's vashel mitkaven. You don't have the kavanah to turn off the fire. You just don't want that people are going to get damaged when they're walking by. So answers the Gemara, בדבר שלא מתכוון סבל like Rabbi Shimon, במלאכה שנצטרך לגופה סבל like Rabbi Yehuda, which means this. We usually pass like Rabbi Shimon on both מלאכה שנצטרך לגופה and also דבר שלא מתכוון. מלאכה שנצטרך לגופה means that if I do a melacha and I don't need what I did. So for example, I turned off a fire. Turning off a fire is melacha שנצטרך לגופה because unless I need the coals or the pecham, I need all this the ashes or things like that, it's a melacha. I didn't need the melacha. I did a melacha, but I didn't need the outcome of the melacha. In order for you to be chayav on Shabbat, you need a melacha tzricha legufa. Here it's a melacha she'ena tzricha legufa. There's another halacha, davar shelo mitkaven. Davar shelo mitkaven means I do not have kavanah to do a melacha. So again, in both cases, you have a machloka between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda is always stringent, and Rabbi Shimon is always lenient. And we go like Rabbi Shimon in both cases. So here he says, to do with halacha of davar shelo mitkaven, right? When you came and you pour a little bit of wine on the mizbeach, and now it turned off a little bit of part of the mizbeach, davar shelo mitkaven. Your kavanah was not to what? To turn off the fire. So if your kavanah was not to turn off the fire, you're allowed to do it on the mizbeach, no problem. It's turning off the fire, not completely, but it's turning off it. That's not your kavanah. Mutar. What about on Shabbat? On Shabbat, you come and you see coals outside, and all of a sudden now you're not allowed to come and turn it off. You're allowed to turn it off in order for people that don't get damaged, but only of matechet and not of etz. So he says, but why? He says, he says, no, you're right. To do with davar shelo mitkaven, he paskens like Rabbi Shimon. To do with melachat she'tzicha legufa, he paskens like Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yehuda says you're going to be chayav in such a case. So that's why it does not help, right, in such a case of turning it off, because since if you turn it off, it's going to be Isur Doraita, so therefore obviously you're not allowed to do it even if people are going to get damaged. So Amar Avhuna says Avhuna, Nesachim shenitmeu. When we're talking about now Nesachim that become Tameh, Oseh lahen ma'aracha bifnei atzman. So what happens is that you come and you make its own ma'aracha, its own fire, right? V'sorfan, and you burn it there because it became Tameh. So that you come and you're not allowed to take it out outside of the Azara. Right? What meaning? It became tameh inside the Beit HaMikdash. So what are you supposed to do? You burn it on the outside. So he comes and he says, Mishum shneimar b'kodesh, because it says that if it becomes tameh b'kodesh, b'esh tisaref, you have to burn it in the fire. So Tanya Miyachi, we also learned this in the Braita, Adam v'Hashemen v'Amenachov v'Nesachim shenitmeu, oseh la manacha b'fnei atzman. You're going to make a manacha by itself. The sorfan, and you're going to burn it. So Amar leShmuel Rav Chanan b'Aktata, bring me 10 people, and I'm going to say it. He basically wanted to also hold the same thing. So therefore what he did was he wanted to bring an entire minyan of people in order to come and to say this halacha, so that way everybody, wanted to be mefarsem in such halacha. They, Pirsum and Isa. What do you have a Pirsum? Pirsum, you come and you do it in front of 10 people. So he comes, he brings 10 people, and they said this halacha that when you have nesachim shenitmeu, they're going to make a maracha bifnei atzman, a fire on its own, and they're going to burn it. Hadran alach, kol adad